So now back into our to-do list, we see that we've finished the vast majority of things related to videos. Granted, our users can't see it yet, and there's probably other features we might want to add to our videos and our playlists. But now what I'm going to do is add the Categories app. Now this app is actually going to be one model that is going to correspond to a playlist. So that is, each playlist will have one category, and then one category will have many different playlists. I'm not going to add it into videos, but the reason I'm having one category is to really just show the difference between having one category for a playlist and then using tags as another means to categorize something, as we'll see once we get there. But for now, let's go ahead and create our app for categories. So Python manage.py, start app and categories. And then inside of our project here, we're going to go into models, and we'll go ahead and do class, and we'll call this category, and it's models.model. The very first thing I'll do is add a meta class, because category, well, the plural of category is categories. So I like adding the verbose name in here as well. So verbose name being, of course, category, and then verbose name plural equals to categories. Okay, cool. So what are the fields that I want to have for this category? Well, I want to have title, slug, maybe a timestamp, maybe updated. I actually don't really care if there's a published state or not, but I might want to turn off a category, so I'll go ahead and do an active field. So models dot Boolean field, and the default being true. That's probably all I really want at this point. Timestamp, of course, is models.date time field, auto now add being true, and then auto now being true for updated. Slug, of course, is models.slug field. In this case, I'm going to just go ahead and allow it to be blank and null. And then the actual title is the one thing I do not want to have blank and null. So I'll do char field, and we'll do max length equaling to 120. Or let's make it a little bit longer, and we'll say 220. Now, the category itself, sure, you could have an image, you could have descriptions, you could have a lot more things to it, but I'm not going to worry about that yet until I actually need it. Right now, what I need is a way to actually put my playlists under categories. We had types. Types is a category if you think about it, right? So going into our playlist itself, this type is still a kind of category, but it's more general category. It's more of like a media type than it is like a genre, right? So that's kind of more what we're going with these categories, is like just overarching genres. And perhaps we would have called this entire model and section genres, but I'm going to keep it in as category. I like that terminology a little bit better than genre. Okay, so now that we've got this, let's go ahead and add it into our installed apps. So settings.py and categories. Okay, let's run our migrations. Python manage.py make migrations. Python manage.py migrate. And Python manage.py test. Cool. Let's go ahead and create a few tests for these categories. And I'll just call this category test case. And it takes in test case. Define setup. And I'm going to go ahead and import from .models, import category. In my setup function, I'm going to go ahead and do a couple different categories. So I'll just say cat A equals to category.objects.create, title being action, and then cat B maybe being comedy or something like that. Comedy. And I'll go ahead and say active being false. So then self.cat A equals to cat A cat. And then we'll do the same thing for B. Okay, so first of all, we're going to define default or test is active. Self, we're going to return, or excuse me, we're going to do self.assert true, self.cat A active. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and test is not active. Test not active, and assert false, cat B active. Really simple. Test categories this time, and we ran 2 tests successful. Okay, great. So yes, is there more things we could add to these test cases? Absolutely. But I just wanted some simple ones for now, just to make sure that I'm always in the process of writing these tests and maybe improving upon them. But of course, this isn't the only reason we have categories. It's actually for a much more simple reason. So let's go ahead and add this into the admin. I'll do from.models import category. And I'm actually going to leave this commented out for a moment. So admin.site.register of that category. But what I will do is bring this category into my playlists here, and we will import it. So from categories.models, we're going to import the category. And then we will go ahead and assign it to our playlist. So I'll put it right below the parent and say category equals to models.foreign key category, blank equals to true, null equals to true, on delete equals to models.set null. I could also set a default value in here of like some ID that I want for my default categories. I don't actually have any categories, so I'm going to leave that empty for now. And I also don't really care if there is a default category for any given playlist. So Python manage.py, make migrations, and then Python manage.py migrate. And let's go ahead and run the server and look at any given playlist to see the options that I have available. So inside of the playlist, I click on a playlist. Actually, let's go into a TV show playlist and go into the office and notice that the category is not showing up. That's probably not that surprising because in our admin for any given one, we don't have the categories showing up there. So I'm going to put it next to video on each one of these. So category. And this, unlike the type, we actually won't set the default in here. Okay, so the next one being the fields for the TV show. Okay, and then maybe even in the season itself, so TV season, looks like the TV show season will probably already have it. So let's go in and just take a look real fast just to make sure. So seasons 4, and there we go. Okay, cool. So what we see here, if we go and look at these categories, we see that there's nothing to select from, right? So videos have stuff to select from, categories do not. So there's a couple of ways on how we can actually make it selectable. First of all, I have to add categories in, but I don't actually have any. So what I'm going to do then is obviously come back into the admin itself and uncomment this out, refresh, and now, of course, I have some categories in here. And now I can actually add them. But what I also see is this cool thing right here. So what this is allowing me to do is actually add, edit, or remove categories that may already exist in the admin. So as soon as I added it to the admin, I was able to do this. And now I can add in some sort of category. So I'm going to go ahead and do comedy in this case. And we'll hit save. Now category object 1 is not very descriptive. So to change that, we come into define the str method. This is the string representation of this particular model. And right now it defaults to category and then self.id, like roughly like this, using some string substitution, right? And that's fine overall. Actually, it doesn't have the brackets there. It's just like this. And that's fine in all, but that's not very descriptive. So obviously I just want to use self. Let's get rid of that and just use self.title as the string description. And then we change some things about our models. So we'll run python manage.py, make migrations, and python manage.py migrate. Oops, did I save everything? I don't know if I did. Let's try that again. Run the migrations and python manage.py migrate. Okay, so changing the str method should not actually run any errors for us. Okay, so we're going back in here. And oops, let's run that server again. Python up. There we go. And there, now we should be able to see the different categories. Okay, cool. So if I save this, I now have categories, obviously. Okay, so before I go, let's do one more test, and that is actually adding a category to a actual playlist. So from playlist.models, we're going to import the playlist itself. And this is just going to be a default playlist. So I'll go ahead and say play A, playlist.objects.create, title being this is my title, and category being cat A. Okay, and then I'll go ahead and do self.playA is that. Now what I'm going to do is define test related playlist of self. I want to get the query set that's related to category A, which of course is what I created here. So I'm going to go ahead and do self.cat.a.playlist.set.all, and then do self.assert equal, and this is going to be qs.count to 1. Okay, and let's run our test again, and just in categories this time. And sure enough, it runs all three, and it's successful. And then python manage.py test. Let's run everything, and it's successful. Great. So now we've just pretty much put everything together really, really quickly. So we created a foreign key object, a model with category. We associated it to our playlist, which gives us this reverse relationship. Now, we could obviously test the forward relationship, as in playlist A.category. That would give us some sort of category value, but that's actually not that interesting of something to test. I just wanted to test to make sure that this is actually the case. We're actually getting the correct playlist item in here. So maybe we would actually change the related name, the reverse name, to something different. Maybe it's just playlists. So let's actually take a look at that. So category in here, let's change the related name to being playlists, and now run our migrations again. And this is something that happens from time to time. Then you go to test it, and we get this error that it has no attribute playlist set, because we just changed that attribute to just playlists, of course, right? So we go back into our tests, and we change this to just playlists, and now I can run that test again. Get no errors, no issues whatsoever. So I think this stuff's really, really cool and really useful for creating categories. But you might be wondering, well, how do I make something that's a little bit more general that I can just add on any model, not just one model? Like, how do I make a generic foreign key? Well, that's what we want to do with our tags.